everyone, and welcome to Après Midi in Nice. I am really pleased to introduce Miss Rosa Jackson, who is the author of this amazing book. And I have to tell you that it's really heavy and it's really filled with magnificent photos. And she's going to talk all about that. Rosa is an author and a culinary instructor here in Nice, and she has never looked back after tasting her first coffee eclair at the age of 4 when her family came to live in Paris for a year. After working as a food writer for a daily newspaper in Canada, she moved to France in 1995 and founded Paris Market Tours, the first company to offer tours of the city's food markets. Rosa long dreamed of combining market tours with cooking classes and chose Nice for its vibrant food market and unique culinary traditions influenced by Italy and other Mediterranean cultures. After 20 years of teaching, it gives away our age, you know, when we do things like that. Her greatest satisfaction comes from knowing that people all over the world are now preparing local specialties such as pissaladière. Everybody know what that is? Yeah. Caramelized onion tart, soca, chickpea pancakes, and of course the stuffed vegetables known as les petits farcis. Always preferring quality over quantity, Rosa has slowly expanded her business to include collaborators who are equally passionate about the local cuisine and culture. On that note, everyone turn off your phones, okay? And Rosa Jackson. Okay, I heard a bark. Who's making noise? It wasn't Claude. Okay, we also have a lot of canine friends here today. Everybody notice? Yeah. I just, on one small note, the first time I came to Nice and rented an apartment, by sheer coincidence, was Rosa's apartment.
Yeah, and I almost didn't remember that until you said it. It's amazing.
Up many flights of stairs in Old Town, but it was totally charming. And that just happens to be the way the world works, right? So Rosa is not American, she's Canadian.
So, anyone else Canadian here?
Yeah, we have a few Canadians. So why did you move to France other than the eclair?
I grew up in Canada, but when I was young, my family spent 2 years in Paris. So luckily I spoke French, so that was one obstacle I didn't have to deal with. And I was working as a food writer for a newspaper in Canada. And after, where I lived was very cold. I grew up in Edmonton, which, if anyone knows where that is, there's every reason to leave, really. So
now we do know why she's in Nice.
And I thought I had lived in Paris before. I loved it when I was young. I still remembered my French, and I loved food. So, it made sense to at least try. So I went to Paris in 1994. I spent 6 months until all my money ran out, literally. And then I went back to Canada and saved up enough over just 8 months to come back. I just saved up $5,000 more, and I said, this time I'm going to stay. And so I did. I got through the first couple of months, and I got a job at the Cordon Bleu cooking school as an interpreter. And from there, I just continued in the world of food. I started writing about food for international publications. And then I worked for Time Out Paris as their restaurant editor for several years in Paris. And so I'd always had a connection to Paris when I was young, so it made sense for me. I could have gone I love Italy too, but I would have had to learn the language, so France it was.
You and I have something in common, though, because we have Paris and Nice.
Yes.
So, and people ask me this all the time. I don't know how to answer it. Which city do you prefer?
Today I'm going to say Nice. But I mean, today, as in, that's the conclusion I've come to after all this time, because I love Paris. I'm very, whenever I go to Paris, there's a feeling of excitement and energy, because Nice is a more relaxed place for sure. So when I go to Paris, I love the energy, and I love to try new restaurants, and I love, I'm very excited as soon as I hit the ground. But to live in, for its proximity to nature, the sea and the mountains and the more relaxed lifestyle, I think at a certain age, when you're young, when I was young, I'm happy I started making my career in Paris. But then after about 40, I think Nice is a really nice, better place to live.
I'm getting there for sure. I mean, I'm here about 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's weird though. I don't know if this happens to you, but when I'm in Paris, all I think about is Nice.
Yeah.
But when I'm in Nice, I don't think about Paris.
Right.
So it's
there's a weather factor.
Yeah. It's a message. Okay, so you see her book is Niçoise. So why Niçoise? Why not Niçois?
Does everybody know what the word Niçoise means?
Well,
okay, because I always ask that in my cooking classes because many people know salade niçoise, but they don't know what the word Niçoise means. So Niçoise is just anyone or anything that's from Nice. And Niçoise with an E is feminine. I'm feminine. So this book is really about Niçoise cuisine. Cuisine is feminine, and about my own journey to Nice. So that's why it's Niçoise and not Niçois.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Plus the specialties. Now, you organized this book by season,
yes.
Right? Why did you do that?
In Nice, if you've been to the markets here, you'll see that the produce changes, not just every season, but almost every day. You're going to see something different. So one day you're going to get these special strawberries that maybe you're not going to see next week. And then the cherries come in and they're expensive, and then they're a little bit less expensive. And so all of these things, I've watched the cycles of the produce since I moved to Nice, even more than in Paris, because in Paris you have access to so many different regions of France. So at the markets, you're going to see still seasonal, but not quite as hyper local and seasonal as you see in Nice.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Here, the way people cook is really based on the seasons, and there's certain dishes you're never going to make. For instance, ratatouille, I make only in the summer. I'm never going to make it in the winter. And so there's a lot of food like that we wait till that product's in season and then we make that dish. So I'm not saying that you can, when you buy this book, you should only look at summer if it's summer, because there's some products that we get all year round, like onions, pis saladière. It's something we might eat all year. So I had to put it in a chapter. So, but generally you'll see that it really naturally reflects the seasons of Nice. Then where you live, it might be a little bit different.
3 weeks, when I was here 3 weeks ago and I went down to the Corsalia, all you saw was asparagus.
Right. And now it's finished, right?
Really?
It's almost not completely finished, but almost. And today cherries they're expensive, but in a couple of weeks it should be peak.
Well, I know that in wandering through this book, the little bit I did do, the photography is phenomenal. I mean, it's a wonderland. So can you tell us about that?
So I'm thinking when, about 10 years ago or so, I met Jan Hendrik van der Westhuizen, who is a South African chef who today has a beautiful restaurant called Restaurant Jan, which has a Michelin star in the port. When I met Jan, he had been to design school. He worked for Elle magazine. He was just thinking about starting his restaurant. And I knew that he was a very good photographer. He's actually written, I think, 3 cookbooks himself, which he photographed himself. And we've been friends all this time. And I thought, can't hurt to ask if he wants to photograph my book. And he said yes. So Jan was my photographer for this project. And he really captured the natural style of the cooking that I do here, because it's not Michelin-starred food in this book. It's very much home cooking. Niçoise home cooking, and he didn't impose a more formal style on the dishes. We did it very naturally. So I cooked the dishes just as they appear in the recipes, and he used only natural light. And we did many shoots throughout the year to reflect each season.
So, are the photographs in the slide presentation his?
Mm-hmm. They are.
Why don't you show us some of those?
Okay. So this is the what you might eat now with your asparagus.
Right.
So if you buy some asparagus at the market, this is a recipe that's in the book. It's called mimosa. Does anyone know why?
The flour.
Yeah, because the egg yolk.
I don't know why the screen does this.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got its own
So
mind.
these asparagus have a dressing, which can be a vinaigrette, but in my book it's a yogurt dressing. And then there's grated hard-boiled egg, and the yolk looks a little bit like mimosa flowers, and that's why it's called asperge mimosa.
I'm sorry, but all the photos happen to be on that side, by the way. Just so you know.
Okay,
just shift a little. There you go.
The pis saladière, which I think most of you are familiar with if you've been spending time in Nice. very popular Niçoise dish. This is the ratatouille. Ratatouille, I don't know if everyone knows this, but it's a dish that comes from Nice. So the name and many of the names of Niçoise dishes come from the local language. There's a local language here called Niçois, and ratatouille means rata, which means mishmash, and touiller, which also in French, means mix, to stir. So it's like a stirred mishmash. But if you make a good ratatouille, you should be able to distinguish each vegetable. So it shouldn't be mushy. In the old days, ratatouille was an overcooked mushy dish, and that's how it got that name. But then now people separate out the vegetables and cook them.
But you know, we
one
thought
by one.
this was just like a rat that lives in a Paris restaurant that made this great movie.
Yeah. That's how everybody thinks ratatouille should be something different now, because in the movie it was layers and it looked like a perfect dome. But that's actually what we call a tian here. It's not a ratatouille.
Oh.
So petit farci, which I name my classes after. So my school is actually called Les Petits Farcis. And these are the little stuffed vegetables with the meat and vegetable filling. So the reason I chose that dish for the name of my school is that it's a very thrifty dish, and it reflects Niçoise cooking, because people often came up with ways of stretching out smaller amounts of meat or fish to make a complete dish.
But you have little caps.
Yeah, so yeah, I like to, it looks cute. Cuteness is important in this dish. And so I save the caps and put them back on. This is the tarte au citron, which is my lemon tart, which has olive oil in it. So if you've tasted the local olive oil, it's very delicate and can be used in desserts. And that's one of my signature recipes that we make in my classes. Oh, there's one other dish here, which is, this one's savory, but so this is a pie made with Swiss chard, which is the most used green vegetable, leafy vegetable in Nice. And the pie actually exists in savory or sweet versions. So this is the savory one, but people also eat a sweet chard pie here, which is called tourte de blette sucrée, which has raisins soaked in rum, pine nuts, and apple. Has anyone tried that? Yeah, that's something you should try in Nice. And then here's a little feast of
that's
several.
Everything.
Yeah, that was a shoot that we did in the fall. And so it has kind of late summer fall ingredients in it. Socca, which is the chickpea pancake. That's a veal stew with olives, some lamb, breaded rack of lamb, mussels. That's a typical way to prepare mussels with tomato and saffron. So these are some of the, and quince. So you can see some of the, types of dishes we do in the book.
I mean, how easy are these to make?
So the thing about Niçoise cuisine is nothing is hard, but it's not necessarily fast either. So there's a lot of dishes here that are more slow cooked dishes. You need to take a little bit of time, and it's not 30-minute cooking. That's not the style of this book. It's really like family style recipes that you're going to take a little bit of time shopping for the ingredients and also cooking, and things like petit farci, like this one. You probably want a bit of help, because if you're making a lot of it, it's better to do it as a group. Otherwise, it can be a bit time consuming. So I'm not a 30-minute chef, except when I'm at home. But I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating more for, you might sometimes want to take some time and make these real peasant dishes that are rewarding and that bring people together.
What's your favorite recipe?
Well, obviously, I called my classes Petit Farci, so that's very close to my heart. There's some really fun recipes in the book that are, uncommon recipes. So one of the ones I really love is, it translates in English as naked ravioli, but in French it's peloton, because if you've heard the word peloton, it means like things that are bunched together. It's like a ball, like when they talk about cyclists that are in the peloton. But peloton actually means little ball. And so peloton or naked ravioli are like ravioli filling made into little balls and then rolled in flour and cooked just boiled in water. And so it's very light. It's almost like there's no pasta, but with a little layer of flour just gives it a coating. And so it dissolves when you eat it. And it's like a very light version of ravioli, which I like a lot.
Wow.
And you make it with leftover beef stew meat mixed with chard and Parmesan and just a little bit of bread.
Are there any restaurants that serve that?
Not really.
I don't think I've ever seen it on the
I learned
menu.
it from a local chef here.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's a home cooking kind of thing.
So, okay, so Niçois cooking is somewhat similar to Italian, you know,
Yeah.
but why?
There are many resemblances between Niçois cooking and Italian food. One of the reasons is historically Nice was part of the Kingdom of Savoy, which was Piedmont and Sardinia. So there's a historical connection, but also Nice is very close to Italy, and there's always been a lot of exchange. So in the 19th century, many workers came from Genoa to help build the city because it was growing so quickly with tourism at that time. And they brought their street foods with them, which is called la merenda, now la merenda, which is the mid-morning or late afternoon snack that the workers would have. So things like socca, which we saw before, if I can find it. Yeah, socca would be part of the merenda. It's something filling that you can eat standing up. So pissaladière, socca, these foods really came from Italy, but then were slightly transformed here. So they're not exactly the same recipes. They have different names. Farinata is what they call that in Liguria. If you cross the border into Ventimiglia and you go to the market there, you can have farinata. It looks like this, but it's a little bit thicker. It's sometimes they add other flavors to it, whereas socca is always plain and eaten with black pepper. So there's always subtle differences, like pistou, which is our version of pesto. So in Nice we have pistou, and in Liguria they have pesto. Pistou has no pine nuts, and it's made with a different kind of basil. The garlic is a bit stronger flavored. The cheese is a different cheese because they'll use pecorino in Italy. So they're just these little differences, which I find really interesting.
When my daughter was here once, and we went for soca, she said, "I don't get it. Why don't they create soca with all these different fillings and do something like really interesting and creative with it?" You know?
Well, many people say that in my cooking classes, and that's, yeah, I guess that's the difference between, if you're from Nice, you just like things a certain way, and with the pepper and that's it. It's sort of simple, and yeah, the way people have always known it. However, there are people now who are changing things. So there's a very famous soca place called Pippo, Chez Pippo, and
yeah.
he started doing soca with toppings, and he does a parmigiana topping, and he does some with onions. And so he does this, and I asked him, did he get into trouble at the beginning when he introduced it? And he said people were a little skeptical, but once they tasted it, they liked it. So you can change things, but
yeah, but change does not come easy.
No, it does not come easy. Yeah, you have to accept some criticism.
No. So, what do you think? Do you think Niçois cooking really appeals to Americans?
I think so, because at the moment there's a lot of talk about the Mediterranean diet. This is one of the original Mediterranean diets. It's also a very thrifty style of cooking. It's not using a lot of meat and fish. You would think, oh, it's going to be really fish heavy because it's Nice, and we all know fish is good for us, but it's not. Oh, fish can be expensive. We don't eat enough oily fish, which is actually the more affordable kind of fish to buy, like sardines and
sardines are really good.
Like people love sardines in Nice, like fresh
but they
sardines.
stink up the kitchen.
So if you make this recipe in the book, it is not so smelly, because there's a famous sardine dish in Nice called sardine farcie, and it's got a chard filling, so very finely chopped Swiss chard with onion, and it's actually got cheese in it and breadcrumbs and herbs, and then you butterfly the sardines, and you spread this over top, and then you bake it or you broil it. And since it's cooked in the oven, it doesn't smell as much as if you fry it or grill it, and it's really delicious. And I had that for lunch today, actually, because I went to La Table Aziari, which serves they actually serve the ones that are the recipe is in this book.
They use their Aziari. Is that the Aziari olive oil?
They're related.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a restaurant called La Table Aziari, and they're related to the olive oil family.
Well, that was my next question, because I used to cook a lot, and used to, primarily Italian cooking. And then when my daughter left the house when she went to school, I went, okay, so why am I dirtying up the kitchen? And now I eat out twice a day instead. So I
remember you telling me that. Yeah.
No. So my question is, what restaurants do you recommend that have good Niçois specialties?
So La Table Aziari, which I just mentioned, is nice because it's family run. A lot of people know La Merenda. La Merenda, it's a popular, very small bistro near the Opera House, difficult to get in. So
Yeah,
if you're
very
planning to
independent.
go, you should reserve ahead and use their Facebook page or their Instagram to get a booking, because that's the only, you can't call. But that's a really lovely little bistro that's been there forever. It's quite cramped. Like, don't expect to have space, personal
And you sit
space.
on little stools.
And you sit on little stools. So I'm just telling you. But the food is really, really good. That's why I sometimes go to La Table Alziari, because it's similar food, but it's a bit more spacious, you know. Mm-hmm. And then another one is Acciardo in the Old Town. That's another family-run restaurant that's, you know, they've expanded, so they're bigger than they used to be. And they serve quite sort of simple, rustic Niçois cooking. And it's a friendly local spot.
Do you know Chichu?
No, I don't know that one. Where is that?
I think it's General Leclerc, right near the Lidl, right down from the Lidl.
Okay.
Is that General Leclerc, that street? Georges Clemenceau.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Georges Clemenceau.
Okay. No, I don't. I've seen it. I've been past it and wondered about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's very good. It's a little bistro like that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. We were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
Okay.
So now we
I'll
can
have to go try that one.
go try it out. So this must have been quite a task.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that? Like,
this was a pandemic project. I had been thinking about writing a book for a long time, and many people who came to my cooking classes said to me, "When are you going to have a book?" And of course, it was something I wanted to do, but it was, you know, selling a book to a U.S. publisher is a very daunting task. And I had already approached publishers about this idea probably 10 years ago, and they had said it was too regional, it was too niche, and they didn't want it. So then when the pandemic happened, I have a friend, David Leibovitz, who he's written a bunch of cookbooks, and he said to me, "I think this is the right time for you to write this cookbook. You should approach publishers now, because they're getting more interested in regional cuisines." So he gave me the name of his agent. I approached her. She was interested. She found a publisher for me. So the ball got rolling. And then, you know, it was the pandemic, so I had a bit more time than I normally had. So things were picking up as I was writing the book, but in between classes, you know, I found time to write the book. So it took me about an hour, more than an hour. It took me about a year to write the manuscript, and then it was about 2 years of production, which is pretty normal time actually for, you know, there's a lot of rounds of edits. So 3 years is how long it took overall.
How many recipes are in it?
There are 100, and I actually went way over my. They had given me a word count, and I went way over it because I suddenly thought, you know, because this is all about how much I love Nice, and I thought about all these things I wanted to include, and in the last month I was frantically adding things, which in the end, luckily, they kept. So it did go longer than it was originally meant to be, which is why it's so heavy.
It's a great cookbook, and it's also a good coffee table book. If all you want to do is look at the pictures and drool, right, and then go to the restaurant.
There's a restaurant list at the back. It's like all the places that I mentioned in the book are in a sort of address book at the back, so you can find them.
Yeah, but you do classes, right?
Mm-hmm. So I have a cooking school in the Old Town.
But something terrible happened to it.
Oh, yeah, should we talk about that?
Yeah, tell us your story.
So today, if you check Nice Matin, you might see my picture. And the reason is that the building that I teach cooking in the Old Town is now under threat, because there's a building next to it that's starting to crumble, literally. And so we were evacuated last week, and I lost my space. So I'm currently scrambling to find a new kitchen. And
anybody know of one?
So if anyone has a big kitchen, huge island, I need a temporary space while that gets sorted out. So so I've been I've been talking to everybody. The Old Town is a real village, so I've been going around the Old Town talking to all the shopkeepers, all the restaurants. You know, I've seen politicians. I've done everything I can to try to get a new kitchen quickly. Yeah.
I have the same structural problem in my.
You told me that.
Yes. I'm moving out of my apartment in July.
Oh, it's happening now. Okay.
Starting to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Old buildings.
Yeah. So in this case, it was very drastic because it was really one day to the next where they just said you need to clear out, and no warning.
How old is the building?
It's three. So somebody told me it was like Louis XIV period. So
which is 17th century,
yeah,
17th
like 18th.
18th century. Yeah. Okay. So right now you don't know when your classes are going to start back up.
No. So at the moment I'm offering food tours. We're adding some of my favorite bistros that are mentioned in the books. So we're doing food tours or food tours with, lunch at a restaurant while I wait to find a new kitchen. But hopefully that'll happen fast because I do have a couple of leads.
How do people find out about the tours?
It's there. petitfarci.com is my website. And also I have an Instagram you can check here, which, keeps you up with everything I'm up to because I travel a lot and I also organize culinary trips. So I also have done culinary trips to Morocco, Georgia, and Japan. So I love to travel and discover cuisines of different countries. And once I've been to that country and found, a local contact who really, really knows their stuff, then I bring people there. I like to share it. So I've organized some trips like that.
Okay, so you have a mailing list?
I do. So
does everybody want to be on her mailing list?
If you want to be on So I have a monthly newsletter. Some people here might subscribe, maybe. So people seem to like it. And I talk about my travels and there's a recipe. So if you want to get on it, you can either go to my website where there's a form to fill out, or you can just do rosajackson.com/join and you'll get to my newsletter sign up.
Okay, and then you would let them know when your tours are happening.
Right. Yeah, so then you can be up to date on everything I'm doing. Yeah, so just Rosa Jackson, all one word, .com, and then /join. And then you'll get to my newsletter sign up page.
I have a question.
Yeah,
sure.
Two questions, actually. Can you buy the Kindle version of the book at Amazon? The electronic version?
I don't know.
I
think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You can buy it on Amazon. Yeah.
And then the other question is,
Patty saw it.
And why did you write it in English rather than in French?
It's an American publisher.
Okay.
I wanted to be in the American market. Everyone who comes to my cooking class is English speaking, almost everyone. So it made sense to do it. And also I wanted the world to know about Niçois cuisine. So it's nice. Eventually it would be good if it's translated into French. I'm hoping that it'll be translated, but for the moment it's in English.
Well, this is a good time to open this up for a Q&A.
Okay.
And just so you know, because you and I are mic'd up for the recording, so the audience on YouTube will not hear their question unless we repeat.
Okay.
Anybody have questions?
Is the book available in Nice?
I've been asked if the book is available in Nice. It will be. There's a bookshop called Librairie Masséna, which is opening an English language store.
Yay.
And I'm going to be doing a signing there on June 22nd because the book is actually just coming out in Nice soon. It's not out yet in France. So in the next few days it's coming out, and then I'll do that signing in June. So
okay, June 22nd, mark your calendars.
Yeah.
English, that's the first English language bookstore here, right?
Yeah, there was one when I first moved to Nice, but it's not there anymore.
Wow.
Masséna. Librairie
Masséna.
They just opened, some women just opened an English language bookstore over by the port.
Ah.
It's called Read the Room.
Okay. Oh, you know what that means.
Yeah, there's going to be
go over there.
I need to go see Read the Room.
Christy.
This chart, I don't seem to see it in the market. Why is that?
Because it's gone by 9 a.m.
Wow.
And that's actually true. Sometimes there's a lot of Swiss charts. So for instance, in the spring, like in March, April, there was a lot. It was very abundant. And now it's starting to be a little bit less. When it starts, well, we've had quite a bit of rain, so there'll probably still be chard, but It'll start to get less as the summer starts. And then there's always chard, but there's not a lot of it. So you have to go early to get it.
Do Americans even know what it is?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Sure?
Oh, sure.
I've been gone too long. I would not have known about it. No, at all.
Yes?
Katie.
So I got a kick out of learning merda de cat.
Yes.
And I want to know, in your studying, have you discovered why? You can share what it means with the group, and you can also describe why on earth would you name a dish merda de cat?
Okay, the question is about merda de canne, which is a green gnocchi, which has a name in the local language Niçois, which translates as dog poop. And the reason is that the shape of it, it's a gnocchi that you shape with your hands like this, so that it's a little pointy on each end, and it actually looks really nice. But you know, the name sounds more poetic in Niçois. The reason, so a lot of people used to make fun of the people of Nice because they ate a lot of chard, and there was a name that people used to call the Niçois, which was cagablea. It means chard pooper. And so they would say people from Nice were chard poopers. And so anything associated with chard, people like to make fun of it. You know, it's like, it's just a joke. Like, yeah, it looks like dog poop because those people from Nice, they eat chard all the time, you know. And so that's why.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Well, you talked about eating more oily fish.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the sardines and why we should eat them, and are there sardine recipes?
Yes.
In the book?
So the question is about oily fish and what, you know, why we should be eating more of them and what sort of recipes are in the book. In the book, you'll find so the stuffed sardine recipe, and another oily fish that we eat a lot in Nice is anchovies. Anchovies enter into many different things, including salade niçoise and the famous sandwich called pambagna, which you see on the cover of the book, which is basically salade niçoise in a bun. The good thing about oily fish is they're also easy to preserve. And in Nice, people eat a lot of preserved fish, like preserved anchovy, preserved tuna. Sardines, you know, can be preserved in a can. So they're easy to preserve in oil. And so they're nutritious. They have a lot of omega-3s, which is one of the reasons we should be eating them.
Calcium,
they're also,
too.
yeah, they're a lot less polluted than larger. Like a sardine is going to be less polluted with mercury than a tuna because its life is shorter. And and also they're cheaper.
It's also what the other fish eat.
Yeah. And if you don't like the smell of sardines, you can also eat them raw. So you can marinate them just in lemon juice and olive oil, and then you don't have to cook them, and they're delicious. And same for anchovies. You can just marinate them without cooking them. So yeah, they're cheap, they're good for you, they taste good, and they're easy to preserve.
There you go. Put it on your diet. Eric.
I'm curious, on the soca, do you make your own chickpea flour, or I'm sure you're going to go into that in the book. Could you tell us a little bit more about your process, please?
I don't need to make chickpea flour because it's easy to buy here. So I buy chickpea flour, which is produced in Provence, but you can also buy Italian chickpea flour, and both of those work well for soca. They're very fine. If I had to make my own chickpea flour, I would use dried chickpeas and grind them as fine as I could. I have a machine called the Thermomix, which is a very powerful blender. So if I had to make chickpea flour, I could in my Thermomix, but I'm not sure how many mixers can stand up to that. So check your mixer's instructions before you try to grind chickpeas. But I once had a hairdresser in London who was Niçois, and he said in his family they used to pound dried chickpeas in a mortar to make the chickpea flour. So wow. I guess that's how they did it in the old days. Or you can use I'm not sure if a flour mill works with chickpeas.
What's your favorite market in Nice?
There are two. So Courcelea is the one that everybody knows. It's a beautiful market. I particularly like Courcelea on Saturdays because there are many farmers who only come on that day because they don't produce enough to sell all week. So Saturday is really the special day when you can see the small farmers that sell very specific things. You know, maybe just cheese or just nougat or, just jams or honeys. So I really like Courcelles on a Saturday, and during the week I like Libération, so Libération Market, because it's generally better stocked and it's got more farmers during the week than Courcelles has.
I have another question about markets because it surprises me that Nice does not have more open air markets. There are so few. In Paris, every neighborhood has its own open air market.
I think proportionate to the population, it still has, because there are a few other markets that we never talk about in Nice. So there's the Saint-Roch market, which I never go to, but it's in the Riquier area, like further up. It's in Saint-Roch, so it's more east. And then there's one up north also. It's just a small open air market. So there are other smaller ones. But yeah, Libération is such a big market that it really attracts a lot of people from the whole northern part of Nice.
Yeah, because it's just that there aren't, they're not like scattered all over, nice little, pockets.
Yeah.
And there's some old covered markets that are abandoned.
Yeah, they're pretty much abandoned now. That's true.
We need to work with Christian Estrosi to fix this, right?
A little bit more market. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a lot, but that's because I've always consciously chosen to live near a market.
Of course.
Yeah.
I have another one. So you mentioned the raw sardines. If we go to Libération and we go to the fish, the poissonnier, do we need to indicate to them that we want to eat those raw, or is there like a certain grade?
So what you can look for is they should look really stiff and they should be kind of curled. So if they look kind of like, if you could pick them up by the tail and they don't flop, you can eat them raw.
Why?
Yeah, because rigor mortis.
You mean it's better when they're older? Because
no, it's better when, that means they've just died.
Oh.
So you then put them in lemon juice?
And so then you can fillet them. So you can just take out the bones, which you can do basically by like pulling on the head, clean. You can get them to clean it for you if you ask nicely. And then just put them in lemon juice and olive oil, and they'll basically, it's like
a ceviche.
Yeah, like a ceviche. Yeah.
How long do you just let that?
At least 30 minutes.
Wow.
Not too long. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite fish vendor at Libération?
The one that I go to the most is the one in the covered market, Jérôme. The other ones, you just have to, there's always good stuff, but you just have to look at each one and choose.
They're all about the same price though anyway, right?
The one in the covered market is a bit more expensive than the others, but he seems to have different suppliers. So sometimes I can find things there that are harder to find at the other stalls. Yeah.
When you say covered market, my mom is wondering, what's covered market at Libération?
Yeah, so
exactly?
it's called, so you know where the Place de la Libération is? And then like the Place Charles de Gaulle. If you're standing facing Charles de Gaulle's statue, it's on the right, and it's called Doc de la Riviera, and it's that covered section. And inside you have a butcher that's excellent, and you have the cheese guy, and you have the fish guy, and the Italian vendor.
And just outside of the covered market there's one vendor that has fabulous mushrooms, I believe.
Yes, mushrooms. Yeah, so that part is actually, it's different because it's private. So the big outdoor market is run by the city, and then that covered market is private.
So there are better vendors in the covered market, maybe, because they're
necessarily
they're
better.
paying a higher price to be there.
It's just different. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say they're better, but it's a different system.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Go for it, Christy.
You said the pandemic on your cover, which you tried to make it home, but you can't find the bread.
Well, fortunately, in my book, there's a recipe.
Now you're baking bread.
So I mean, you can use any crusty round bun, so you don't have to make your bread. What I did in my book was that the same dough that I use for the pissaladière, which is basically an olive oil bread dough, I also use for the pombagna. So you can use that same dough. It's actually a little softer than the normal bun that they use for pain bagna, but I kind of like that because sometimes pain bagna is very crunchy, and I like it when it's a little bit softer. So yeah, you can do either make the bread recipe that's in here or just find like a crusty roll.
What's your favorite bakery?
I have several. I really like Mama Baker, which is in the Notre Dame area. And then I like Bourdonnais, which is the port area on Rue Barla. And I like Michel Fiori, which is a bakery on near the train station, like Rambaldi along there. And in the old town, there's a woman named Zielinska, she works with ancient grains, and she does like old stuff. She doesn't do baguette. She's very proud of the fact she doesn't do baguette. She just does like round loaves using older, ancient grains. Yeah.
Do you know the Armand Bakery on Rue de France
yeah, I know.
Rue de
yeah,
Cambrai?
I haven't really had their bread. I've had their croissants and things. Oh, there's a really good croissant place. He's called Frédéric Roy, R-O-Y. And he's a little bit further from the Negresco, like the Saint-Philippe area, and he's famous for his croissants.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Luckily, I don't live too close.
Have you tried out Philippe Payac's viennoiserie?
Oh yeah, he's great.
With cookie croissant.
Yeah.
That one is really a must for Americans who
Yeah.
are now living in France, because it's a chocolate chip cookie that is on top of a croissant, and in the middle of the croissant is cookie dough. It is really a work of art. It really is beautiful, though.
Sometimes,
Decadent.
yeah, I do find like sometimes they can be over the top here with their cookies, because a lot of people are doing cookies now, and they always want to put like Nutella and all these things on top of the cookies, and I like a cookie a little bit simpler, personally.
We saw muffins the other day.
Mm-hmm.
People are making muffins here.
And you'll see that when you're in Paris.
Oh yeah,
it's
everywhere.
like they're everywhere. You can't even And it was funny because when I was in California recently, I couldn't find muffins, and then you come here and all you can see is muffins.
Every single thing that's opened on my Market Street next to me, Rue de Bretagne in Paris, in the last 3 years, is sugar related.
Yeah.
So I call it La Rue de la Sucrerie now. I mean, muffins, cupcakes, cookies, chocolate, ice cream. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm just worried that, the French are going to...
No, they're too expensive, I think.
There are lines to these shops.
Yeah, but you can't eat like them 3 times a day.
Eric has another question.
You may have said this already, but could you also tell us one of your favorite places to get your selection of
meat?
Yes.
Yeah, so also in the covered market at Libération, there's a family-run butcher that's like several generations of the same family. They're amazing. And then in the old town, there's one called Boucherie Jean, which does a actually they changed the name, Boucherie de la Tour. It's in Place de la Tour, and they have beautiful. I like their that shop a lot because they present a bit more. Whereas the one in Libération, it's not really presented. They prepare everything to order when you ask for it. Whereas the other one, Boucherie de la Tour, they actually make it look nice. So that's nice.
Well, you guys are getting an awful lot of good hints here. You're giving away all your secrets. Any other questions? Sure. Lillian.
I'm from California. I was surprised that you can't find wild caught salmon.
Because most wild salmon is from the Pacific, and here we only get Atlantic salmon, and it seems to be farmed. I have a problem with salmon from what we get from Norway I don't think is great. The Scottish salmon sometimes can be good, but I miss that. That's one thing, when I go to Vancouver or somewhere, I just love the salmon there. Yeah.
Did you watch You Are What You Eat on Netflix? Anybody watch that program? And when you see what happens with salmon, it's like you never want to eat salmon again, unfortunately. Yeah,
Yeah, don't watch it.
Don't watch it. It'll ruin you completely. Absolutely.
You can, do you know the frozen food shop Picard? You can get wild salmon there from the Pacific.
But frozen.
It's frozen.
Yeah, but they do a good job, don't
Yeah, I mean,
they?
generally their products are good. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is fish seasonal?
Some, yeah, some fish are seasonal. Yeah.
Because sometimes I see when I'm up at Le Restaurant, I see a lot of squid and octopus. And stuff.
Yeah, and then you won't see it for a while.
And
yeah.
Same with for a long time I didn't see raw shrimp. It was always
Shrimp.
cooked shrimp.
Yeah, there's not a lot of raw shrimp here because shrimp really doesn't keep long when it's raw, so they often cook it, and then even what you see may have been frozen. You do see some raw shrimp when you cross the border into Italy. Sometimes you can find the raw shrimp there in Ventimiglia. And then, for instance, scallops we only really see in the winter. Mussels really definitely have seasons. And there's the certain kinds of mussels, like the ones from the Bay of Mont Saint-Michel, which you see a certain time of year. And then the Mediterranean ones are a different time of year. And then there are times when the mussels just aren't as good, so they're not selling them.
Well, and oysters.
And oysters, yeah.
Yeah, our months.
Yeah, we don't have any oysters that come from around here. So they're always from a different part of France.
Oh, I don't think I realized that. There aren't any oyster beds here?
No. So the closest would be west of Marseille.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe it's not a good idea to eat mussels here. I mean, oysters here anymore.
It's okay. I mean, they get them within 24 hours. They can be here, but mostly they're from the Atlantic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We've got plenty of time.
For your food, we love to take friends on food tours, and we've done it in Bordeaux, different cities. Could you tell us about yours? How long it lasts?
Yeah, so we only offer private food tours, and I work with 3 other guides, and our food tours last 3 hours, and we're visiting these people that can tell us more. So we try to visit local experts that can talk to us about their products. So we have, some of you must know Nadim from Oliviera. He's like a great local personality in the Old Town who can talk about olives and olive oil. We have a cheese shop we like to go to. We have a charcuterie place that we like to go to. So we'll stop and have tastings. And of course, the street foods. So we'll taste the socca, the pissaladière, and then I share the kind of things I'm sharing with you right now about, favorite places and the history of, Niçois cuisine and all of that. So it's like really just exploring the history and culture and food.
How far does it go back, the history of Niçois cuisine?
Niçois, that's a good question. I mean, there are things that can be traced back to the Middle Ages here. Certain traditions and sweets, especially. And even there's a nougat. There's one guy at Corsalia I mentioned, there's a nougat guy. He's based in Lucéram, which is a town up in the hills. And he makes 2 kinds of nougat. One is with honey and almonds, and the other is with fig and almond. And the honey and almond one goes back to Roman times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you also knowledgeable on wines?
Less. I have a good experience of French wine, but I don't consider myself a wine person. That's why I work with Victoria, who some of you might have met. She's a sommelier, and she does our wine tastings, because we also offer wine tastings at our school, and she does some great food tours. Yeah, she's one of the people who does food tours.
So you have no idea when you're going to get back into your school,
No,
or in it at all.
No. I can go in and grab things at the moment, but that's it. Yeah.
Okay, if anybody knows of a big kitchen.
David Leibowitz probably knows.
I talked to him, but
in
no.
Nice?
Yeah.
What about the kitchen in Old Town that they use for the town uses?
Yeah, they did suggest that to me, but their classes are about the same times as mine. So
I didn't think they were doing that many classes.
Yeah, they because they rent it out. I think they have a longer term rental thing that they with some students, like culinary students. So that's why it's not really available. I do have another lead on a kitchen in the Old Town, so I'm crossing my fingers.
Ella has a question over there.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, right. Okay. Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
that's a
thank
good
you.
idea. Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
also restaurant George Forum in the basement of the Catholic Church,
Oh, yeah.
pretty close to
Yeah.
Gambetta and Rue de France.
Okay.
And if your classes aren't around lunchtime, they
Yeah.
only serve lunch.
No, my classes are at lunchtime. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. Mm.
I've had lunch there. It's interesting,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Saint Pierre Duran is the name of the church.
Saint Pierre,
Saint Pierre Duran.
Duran. Mm. Anybody else? Any questions?
I mentioned your food tours to other countries. You mentioned Georgia, Japan, and someplace else.
Morocco.
Any other countries that you offer as well, or
No, at the moment, yeah, I'm keeping because it's yeah, those are quite a lot of work to organize. So yeah, at the moment I'm not doing Georgia because it's a little politically
It's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. So in the past I've done it 3 times and it was wonderful. Like I hope that people will be able to go there because it's such a great country. But at the moment that's on hold, and so I'm doing Morocco, and then I'm planning another Japan trip. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Other than the things here, I've thought about doing Provence, but I haven't really organized that. Yeah.
Ella has.
And how did you pick those foreign countries?
I've always been a big traveler, and actually it started with Georgia because I went there first, and I went there when my son was growing up. We just visited countries. You know, we would just kind of make a list and say, okay, where will we go next? And so we went to Georgia, and I met a really great tour guide over there. And it was just that idea that, oh, this was amazing. I'd like to share this with other people. Why don't we bring other people to her? And so that was always the idea, that I would have a collaboration with someone who's living there and that's their job, and bring people to them.
Yeah, because you would, like, how did you get to Georgia,
Yeah.
right?
I tried to take my son
Not
to
the
countries because at that time he was obsessed with sneakers. So I wanted to take him to a country that had no sneaker stores. And that's
Funny. I see a question way over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I go to my organic shop all the time. I go there almost daily. It's the one I go to is by Gare du Sud because I live up there in Libération, and I love it. And they have really good bread. So I do my bread there sometimes. And the vegetables with an organic store, it depends on the day you get there, because some days they're super fresh and other days they've been sitting there maybe 3 days and they're starting to look a little wilted. But if it's in a store that has a good turnover, like the Bio Co-op in Grimaldi, that one's really nice. You know, there's some that have a good turnover, and they're good.
What about spices? Where do you go for spices? I got spoiled when I was in the States because there's so many wonderful little producers now, and fair trade people.
Yeah.
And I found that when I went to the spice place in Old Town, the stuff was pretty terrible.
Okay, so because I travel a lot, I bring back a lot of spices from my travels. But in Nice, I would go to Nice Organic. Do you know that shop? It's a shop in the Old Town where everything is organic, and he sells herbe de Provence, which are really from Provence because a lot of them aren't. And then he has really good spice selections, so you can buy the spices there.
So you're talking about the big vendor on the Porcelea?
No, actually theirs was a little bit better than the stuff I got. If you come up from Monoprix, on what I consider the main drag.
Jean Médecin?
No, in Old Town.
Okay.
From the Monoprix by Place Garibaldi.
Right.
And I never know what the name of that street is. But there's a tea shop on the left as you're heading towards Porcelea, and then a spice store that is beautiful. They have everything in glass, apothecary jars and everything. Most tasty cinnamon I've ever had in my
Oh.
life. This dish tastes like dust from my floor. And what was the Nice?
It's called Nice Organic. Yeah.
Just to piggyback on that, they have their farm like an herboristerie.
Yeah, it's a herbalist.
It's
Yeah.
amazing because
Yeah.
if you ever have a cough,
Yeah, you
have,
just
they
yeah.
have an amazing like herb tea that they
Yeah, they have all
created.
these teas, and you can also even go to him and say what your problem is, and he can customize something for you with essential oils or.
They go in the back and they make
Yeah.
like a potion.
Yeah.
And tinctures. It's really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, Nice Organic.
Nice Organic. It's in Old Town.
Yeah.
Is it down by the fish market?
Yeah, it's near the yeah.
Fascinating. See, you guys have time to wander and check all this out. And I'm jealous. Any other questions? Well,
I think
Rosa,
we've covered it.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian.
Patty.